All right, this topic is factorizing quadratics into what's called double brackets. Okay, this is page 54A and 54B of our packet. Before we begin, I want to talk about some of these words because obviously I don't think we've talked about the word quadratic before. Quadratic refers to any algebraic expression or equation that includes a squared term with a squared term. And when I say squared term, that could be represented typically using x squared, but it could be really any letter squared. So a squared, b squared, c squared, etc., etc. All right, so if you look below, each of these expressions has that same format of something squared, something squared, something squared, and we'll kind of talk about that format in just a minute. When we say factorizing, remember, factorizing is the opposite of expanding brackets. So expanding brackets and factorizing are kind of almost like inverse operations of each other. So today, if I am going to be factorizing, I'm going to be putting these algebraic expressions back into brackets. And it just so happens that if we have a quadratic that has a certain kind of setup, it will go back into what we call double brackets, okay? That setup needs to look like this. I call it ax squared plus bx plus c. And today it just so happens that we will always be working with the value of a is 1. So really you'll have x squared plus bx plus c. If a was 1, right, that 1 would just be invisible. And so we'll kind of just have a setup that looks like this. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to factorize this into double brackets, okay? It's going to be a little bit of work. It might be a little bit complex at first, but I think once you practice and you really get the hang of it, you might need to rewind this video a few times, but once you practice and get the hang of it, I think you can really take off. And it's just kind of like a puzzle. It's actually I think it's quite enjoyable. I enjoy this topic, so I hope you do as well. So remember, what we're doing is factorizing into double brackets. So we looked at this topic earlier where we took these double brackets and then if you remember, when we expanded this, it ended up looking something like this. Okay, that actually matches the same format, right? Ax squared plus bx plus c that we're looking for, okay? And there are a few rules of how I go from this back into these double brackets. So I'm going to tell you those rules right now. Each of these double brackets ended up having the same format when we expanded them out. So I hope that you start to see some patterns. The rules are, we need to find two numbers that multiply to give us c, and they add up to the value of b, okay? And the way that I do that is I always take the value of c and I list the factors. Factors of c. And then I'm looking for a pair that adds up to the value of b. So the best way to do this is probably just to look at some example, okay? So I'll start with this bronze example over here, A. Okay, let me find a good pen. So, like I said, I want to take the letter C, the value of C, and then find the factors of C that add up to the letter B. In this case, this would be my value of C, and this would be my value of B. So I want to take the factors of C, or 80, factors of 80. So I'm just going to make a little list over here. When I'm listing factors, I usually start with the number 1, and then 2, and then 3 and 4, and so on and so forth, and try to find as many factors as I can, and I list them as pairs. So 1 is a factor of 80, it goes in 80 times. 2 is a factor of 80, goes in 40 times. 3 does not go in. 4 is a factor of 80, it goes into 80 20 times. And then let's see, from there I have 5. 5 is a factor of 80, it goes in, is it 16? Is that correct? Yes, 16 times. And then let's see, keep going. I have 6. 6 will not go into 80. 7 will not go into 80. 8 goes into 80 10 times. 9 does not go in. And then 10 goes in, but we already listed 10. So I know that I have a full list right here. Okay. Remember what we're trying to do. What I told you is that we're looking for two numbers that multiply to give us the value of C. So multiply to give us 80. So we already have all of our pairs here. Any of these pairs would multiply to give us 80. but we need a combination that will add up to 18. All right, when we're doing this, it's always the case that only one pair will fit perfectly. Only one pair will. So let's check, let's go down the list and see what we can find. Do 80 plus 1, does that give us 18? No. Does 2 plus 40 give us 18? No. 4 plus 20 give us 18? No. 5 and 16 does not add up to 18. It just so happens to be the last one. Sorry for the long list on the first question. 8 plus 10 will give us 18. Okay, so that's what we're looking for. So now that I have my pair, what do I do with those values? I'm just going to tell you the way that we always set this up. We know this is going into double brackets. Since we have this format, we know that this format will always go into double brackets. What I need to do is take my two pairs and place them as our second term. Okay, so I have 8 and 10 as my second terms in each bracket. All right, they were both positive, right? Because I need a positive 8 and a positive 10 to multiply to give me positive 80. Positive 8 plus 10 adds up to 18. I want you to try to think about what would go in our first term for each bracket. Since we have these n's here and here, it happens to be n. Okay, and that would be our answer actually. Our answer looks like this: n plus 8 in brackets multiplied by n plus 10. Okay, how can we check, you ask? We can go back and use that method that we used to do the opposite when we were going from double brackets and expanding these out to get this format. Okay, so you could draw that box and do n plus 8 and n plus 10 and then multiply everything all together. Sorry, I'm moving pretty quickly, but I think you've got this topic already, so I just want to make sure that you know how to check your answer. Sorry, I was off screen there a little bit as well. N squared plus 18n plus 80, that matches our original, okay? So you can always go back and do this if you need to double check that you have the correct answer, okay? So this question was a little bit more simple because we had double positives here. Okay, when you have double positives, it's a lot easier for us to find the two factors that will add up to this middle term. It does get more complicated if you're looking at something that has a minus involved. Okay, so we'll talk about that. You might want to pause this video now and try the rest of the bronze questions. Okay, just keep trying those. You're looking for two factors. I'll help you set up for B. You're looking for factors of 12 that add up to the number 8. Remember, it's always factors of this last value that's by itself that add up to the term or the number that's in front of the single variable without the power of 2. So that power of 2 you can just ignore. But factors of 12 that add up to 8. Okay, so try to make a list and search for those two numbers that would add up to 8. All right.